Hey everybody, this is an update on the Oakland Bulk and Oversized Terminal, where Filtergami and Insight Terminal Solutions have paired to build something that should have been greenlit and built and completed a long time ago. And that is a much talked about, long thought about bulk terminal for the Port of Oakland in land near the main Port of Oakland facilities, and that is at the old Oakland Army Base. See, the federal government decommissioned the Army Base as part of a gigantic effort to close bases during the late 80s and into the early 90s. And Congressman Ron Dellums, who is the person who was congressperson before Barbara Lee took his place, and not only that, a historic figure in American politics, held up his hand and said that he would essentially offer up the East Bay in an effort to realize what's called the peace dividend, jobs from the closure of the Oakland Army Base, the Alameda Naval Air Station, which I might add had been immortalized in movies like Tora, 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 and others. But I digress. So we were supposed to have taken over these lands from the federal government, from the military, and we did, and then replace the jobs that were lost. In the case of Oakland and the Oakland Army Base Annex, 7,000 jobs. So Phil, California Commercial Investments, won the contract battle to build a facility there, came up with an approach that was different from the other proposals, like one of the proposals was a casino, there was a kind of an office complex and so on, to build a multimodal logistics center which included a bulk and oversized terminal. So basically it's like a giant airport where different companies had terminals to ship out different things, okay? And way back in 2009, the City of Oakland commissioned a study called the Tioga Report, which was finished in 2012, which said, hey, you know what? One of the main commodities you're going to haul is coal, and it's going to be hauled to parts in the other side of the Pacific Ocean we call the Pacific Rim, where it will be used with iron ore to make steel. That's right, make steel. That coincided, it just so happens, with a growing environmentalist, quote-unquote, effort that was monetized by, among others, Tom Steyer, who was a former investor and owner of coal-fired plants, as I understand it. So Tom went on this tear, being involved in lawsuits that were ostensibly against what he identified as fossil fuel operations under development around the West Coast. He went so far as to put $3 million into different proposed legislation within the California legislature, none of which went anywhere. But what he did succeed in doing was bringing to America and the world's attention the problems that were being caused by climate change. He did arguably as much from his end as Al Gore did when he produced the movie The Inconvenient Truth. And however, what he and Bill McKibben did was spawn a kind of a rabid, in its way, sadly anti-intellectual approach that was so against what it identified as fossil fuel related activities that they were just opposing things because they had an attachment to them like coal, okay? And that fell on Phil's project, even though the fact of the matter is that what was being built and still planned to be built, even though it's tied up in litigation, it was filed by the developer, is ostensibly something that will simply carry iron ore, sulfur, coal through covered cars, yes, covered, be transferred all in a very sealed process and fast process from rail to container ship and then off. It will reduce dramatically the number of trucks that are on the road today. No one ever talks about those. And employ about, at the end of the day, for that specific function alone, about 234 people, maybe more, okay? In total, when you consider the Oakland Bulk Oversized Terminal and the functions around it and the architects, already 3,144 people have been employed. So roughly 44% of the 7,000 jobs that were lost have already been replaced, even though they are at this point of a temporary nature. It will be more jobs when this thing gets the green light and the full area is developed than were lost if it gets that far. But it's the politics that are screwing it up. And Tom Steyer has not only helped bankroll the opposition to this, even though that money has ran out. Get this, folks. He also bankrolled a $72 million real estate effort to buy up homes in West Oakland. Many of those homes were occupied by elderly African Americans. Okay? So when I brought it to the attention of an associate of his on social media, he said, well, why don't you have your friends put their money in our bank? Not, hey, by the way, we'll help them. But just another way to get money from them. Because if you make a deposit in the bank, you're essentially helping the bank make money, right? Come on. So, what does all of that have to do with economic development? Nothing. What does Phil have to do with economic development in Oakland, Everything. And so that's why it's important to understand that this opposition is politically driven. The Oakland Bulk Oversized Terminal is not next to a neighborhood. In fact, it's shielded by the other project that was approved by the port. It was called Centerpoint, and the freeway system, as well as the Port of Oakland's other activities. It's quite literally right in the middle of all those, and water. It doesn't abut any neighborhood at all. It's not near anything. So anyone who tells you that it's next to a neighborhood and the asthma is going to be the problem because of it, no. Plus, you're talking about covered coal cars, all right? Wind coal, uncovered coal, sulfur, and everything else, all right? So that's not the case. Not only that, contrary to popular belief, coal has been shipped through Oakland many times, including over the past 2 years. So don't get this idea that Oakland's this coal-free place that, suddenly is going to be harmed by all this. It's not. It's a complete lie. All right? So that's where we are. I just wanted to give you that update. If you want more detail, read the link to the Oakland News Now Post article that is below. Thanks. And please, if you haven't done so before, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube.